My back training has always been fairly simple. I'm someone who, I've obviously done this a really long time. And I will admit, when it comes to back training, I do have pretty good back genetics. So it's not, what am I trying to say? It's not that I have the most amazing secrets or anything special, but that's kind of the point that I come to. And I think that's something that people need to realize is that uh, if you don't have a genetic weak link on something, you probably don't need to do anything special for it. But particularly stuff like back, I find that people who struggle with back development, just in general, there's a few things they get wrong. I think that they focus too much on squeezing, they focus too much on isometrics and all these things instead of just moving weights through fairly long ranges of motion, getting strong. You guys will notice even on rows, I don't even go as heavy as I used to because I don't need to. I just focus on getting a stretch, right? I just focus on getting a stretch and a really good, just stretch at the bottom so that my lats and scapula come apart and just feeling my lats and traps and everything work when I do them. I've done sheet rows with heavier weights and stuff, and honestly, my back is probably bigger now than when I used to do heavier stuff. I used to do a lot of really heavy pen leg rows off the floor, with like 250 pounds for work sets. But right there, you guys are watching me and seeing the back pump I'm getting, literally just doing fairly strict rows through a full range of motion with 185. And I probably need to work that up a little bit again from there because I only recently added them back in. But that still works well for me. So a few pointers and things to think about when it comes to back training, though, is, yeah, I really do only use the basics. Have I used pullovers and other stuff in there? Some, yeah. Do I think different types of rows work? Sure. I think a lot of different types of rows work. I am not, however, a fan of the T-bar rows. I've used those in the past. I feel like you have to load way too much weight to really make a T-bar row worth it. Like when you think of the corner ones that people do, it's just, and it doesn't bring anything special to the table. But some things to think about. People will point out, well, with the barbell rows, low back can really become a limiting factor. We might cheat too much, and cheat rows work just fine. They work just fine, but here's a couple things to think about. Lose the straps. Lose the straps, and then that will clean your row form right up. When you are forced to actually grip the weight with a barbell for the full set, and you can't swing it because you can't hold on to the weight, that'll clean it up a lot right there. People will also point out that, well, and then low back becomes a limit. And well, here's the thing I would say to people, and this may be because my background is more in powerlifting than in bodybuilding, but to me that's laughable. Why is your low back so weak that a barbell row is fatiguing it? I mean, you have 225 pounds on a bar. You're telling me you feel that in your back? Your back gets fatigued on that? Then maybe that's what you need to be fixing is your back issue, your lower back issue, your weak posterior chain. Because again, let me be frank there. I don't feel my low back on a 185 row for sets of 10. I don't feel anything in my back at all. Get your low back strong. This should not be a problem. And I'm not saying you shouldn't go over to a chest supported row or a seal row, because I like seal rows. I like one arm dumbbell rows. I think they're fantastic. Sometimes I just like the simplicity of just training the normal barbell row because I can. Okay, so here's the thing to think about with that. If that's a problem for you, then you need to address your low back weakness. And I'm not saying so that you can keep doing that type of row. What I'm saying is that it is a warning sign that you have a problem, you have an imbalance. It's feedback that you're getting that you need to work on. And in the meantime, if you want to go over and do a one-arm dumbbell row, by all means, go do a one-arm dumbbell row. I think they're great. You have a seal row bench, you want to do seal rows, they're great. I actually like seal rows. If I had a seal row bench and I didn't have to set the seal rows up with the extra setup and time it takes, I'd probably just do seal rows. because I don't work my low back on the other row. It doesn't do anything for me. I'd probably just do seal rows and be just content with that, right? I think they're phenomenal. But it's just a setup hassle. And there's no downside to me doing the barbell since I can do them strict, right? So that's how I look at it that way. It's not that I think it's superior. So there's just no negative, and it's easier for me to set it up. I don't got to stack the benches and everything. But they all work. The other thing to think about, because I do pull-ups first, like that's another thing. If low back is also even a concern, this starts to go away if you do your pull-ups before your rows. Why? Because now your lats and stuff are already fatigued a little bit. And if they're already fatigued, you probably won't move as much weight. They're warmed up better, right? And once your lats and everything are nice and pumped and warmed up from doing pull-ups, I feel like rows just really, they just flow more smoothly. Plus, again, you come over to, you probably can't move quite as much weight. So again, if your low back is an issue, it'll fix that. Same thing then, you don't even need to start thinking straps because you're going to move a lighter weight anyways. And then, hey, then you get all that added benefit of the extra forearm growth, right? This is a win-win. But I will say I do like pull-ups before rowing, right? I do like doing pull-ups before rowing. Me personally, I feel like it's a much better workflow, just for the reasons that I kind of listed. All right. Plus, I like to superset a lot of stuff, so I like to just come over and do pull-ups in between my bench sets. But yeah, all in all, I find that these are the movements that work: pull-ups, rows, deadlifts. Right. This will build your back, and I will agree the deadlift is a point of contention, and I will agree that having a big deadlift alone will not give you a big back. But when it comes to just adding another element to it and maybe some extra trap thickness and everything, I like it. Plus, I feel like the neural drive carries over, right? I feel like a lot of times if you're stronger on deadlifts, you get stronger on your rows and everything. So there's a degree of carryover. And I understand the deadlift is a point of contention scientifically there, okay? But I think as far as an additive effect for anyone who's like, well, we want to get that squeeze and isometric, but if you're deadlifting, you're already doing that, right? That's already covered. So then you can forget about all that nonsense, assuming it even matters. And I'm not convinced that it does. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.